Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point, and there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
Hello. Welcome along to the RTÉ GAA Podcast. We're back again to preview the weekend's action in the Allianz Football League. Just the football this weekend. The hurling taking a break, but still lots to look forward to, and plenty of tasty matches as well across the various divisions this weekend. We'll do it all in the company of Conor Neville from the RTÉ Sport team. Conor, you're welcome. First time this season. Good to have you. Good to have you with us. And Desi Dolan dialing in as well. Desi, how are you?
Very good, Carl. Thank you.
Lads, maybe just to start, it is a busy weekend of football, but we also have this week, Desi, the Sigerson Cup final and the Fitzgibbon Cup final, both of them taking place in Croke Park, which is an interesting thing in itself, I guess. But you're someone that has experience of third level colleges action, both as a player and then trying to deal with it as a manager. What's it like from both perspectives?
Well, if you can cut your teeth playing Sigerson football, you'll play any football because it's extremely tough and tenacious. Generally, the crowds are a little bit smaller than what you'd expect. Like even tonight in Croke Park, it'll be kind of a bit subdued. But in fairness, what an occasion for it to say you played a Sigerson final in Croke Park. And maybe that happened traditionally. Maybe that's coming back to a time when Sigerson finals were there in Croke Park previously. But certainly, David Power involved with UL, UCC. I can only think, when I think of UCC, I think of Dr. Con, and he was involved with us with compromise rules and different teams like that. And anytime you go to Cork, I think of Dr. Con. But certainly, it's a big occasion for both teams tonight. It's on TG Cahir as well, and I think it's a repeat of last year's final. So it certainly is an opportunity. Either team, I think UCC are one of the highest roll of honours in Sigerson Cups as well after UCD. So they'll want to win that tonight as well. So it'll be a great match, something to look forward to on a Wednesday evening. Yeah,
we're recording on Wednesday afternoon, just ahead of the game.
My main memory of Sigerson is watching Michael Murphy score a viral point for DCU. I don't know if you remember watching it.
Outside of the right boot, was that
outside of the right boot? He kind of knocked it by a player who went to block him, and Donegal had just won the All-Ireland, and I think there was a big crowd in to just watch him play.
Yeah.
I think it was a quarter-final, but DCU, they were hot favourites that year, but they blew it. But yeah, it's always interesting because it provides these interesting team combinations. You know, players seem to love it because they get to play with players from other counties who they wouldn't be used to playing with.
And Desi, you were just saying you were in a star-studded NUIG team back in the day.
Yeah, it was. We had Matty Clancy was there, but there was a young little fresher came in from St. Jarlath's, and his name was Michael Meehan. And I swear to God, he was absolutely incredible. We played UCD in the final down in Cork Rin, and he kicked the sideline on one side, and then he went over to the other sideline, kicked another sideline. He had the full array and bag of tricks, and I think after that he went on with Calcher to win the All-Ireland club as well. But I think he burst onto the scene for us and then for Galway, obviously. But it was an incredible start to Sigerson football from Michael Meehan anyway.
Yeah, what a player he was in his pomp. Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, they won an under-21 a couple of years later. I think he might have won. Did he win 2 under-21 All-Irelands? I remember Galway scored like 6-5.
That was Shawnee Armstrong in that same team.
They both scored hat-tricks, I think, in the 2005.
Terrible twins.
And he had a cannon of a boot. Like, it was kind of 60 yards. Never mind the 45. He could hit 70s in Ireland.
Yeah, it was the oddest scoreline ever in an All-Ireland final, I'm pretty sure. In the 21st century, anyway.
Yeah, what a great team, what a great player. And maybe, lads, we can start with Galway then with the weekend's action, because this is one for the purists. Conor, Kerry against Galway, two of the great attacking teams, if you like, in Gaelic football.
Yeah, there's a kind of a mutual appreciation society between them there, all right. Yeah, there wouldn't be much rancor. They haven't met a lot. I don't think they haven't met in the championship, I think, since the 2022 All-Ireland final, and before that it'd have been that game in 2018, I think, the Super 8s game. But yeah, they haven't collided too much. They're two teams in an interesting place at the minute. I think Galway will be particularly happy with how the league has progressed so far, because they might have had concerns given the amount of this sort of permanent injury crisis they're dealing with. And they've, after a pretty impressive performance in Mayo and a very entertaining first game, they had a fantastic result really in Armagh, because you wouldn't have anticipated they'd have. I mean, it was bizarre that they were even ahead at half time. I mean, I think Declan Bogue in the 42 said it was like an episode of The Twilight Zone, which is a reference which is a bit before my time, that Galway were somehow in the lead in that first half. But it was an excellent second half display in that game, particularly in the attacking sense of the game, because they were kind of living off scraps, and yet every attack seemed to yield a score of some description, a point. And given what they're dealing with the amount of injuries and the makeshift team, they seem to be able to there seems to be an endless parade of forwards that they have to call upon.
Yeah, and Rob Finnerty has actually struck form to a large extent for them so far. I think he got 1-6 that day, Desi, against Armagh. But I suppose if you'd looked at Galway in recent seasons, if Damien Comer and Shane Walsh weren't in the starting lineup, you were kind of wondering where scores might come from. But Finnerty's definitely stepped up.
Yeah, and there's Fionn McDonough as well in the corner, has kind of made a good impression. Mulhern at centre forward, although he got a black card the last day. But you would have to say that Galway were extremely lucky. And I do think when you get McDade back in the team, when you get Matty Tierney back in the team, I think Keane Darcy, like that was the last day. They brought them on 27, 28 minutes because they needed to bring them on. They're missing John Maher at the minute, as well as Keane Darcy, Paul Conroy and Comer, obviously massive players for Galway. So with Galway get their full complement back, they're certainly very good. But equally, Porrick had to introduce the quality, Shane Walsh as well, coming in off the bench to beat Armagh. They probably were a bit lucky, and they'd be absolutely delighted with the result. And maybe Ciara McGeeney a bit frustrated that so many of the players decided to punch the ball over the bar when you would imagine there was decent goal opportunities on.
I think in a strange way, the sort of injury crisis they have is almost been beneficial in the sense it's forced them to build so much depth into their team. And they had kind of similar travails in 2024 when they had their run to the All-Ireland final. The league panned out very similarly for them in that they were kind of walking wounded for so much of it and just managed to stay up. And, you know, they end up blooding a lot of players as a result of this. Now, obviously, they have the resources to do it, which is key. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. But they have... You know, they found Shane McGlinchey, who'd been on the 2022 minor winning team, who I think is born in Derry, as his surname suggests. And he's come through there, and he looked particularly impressive in his cameo the last day.
Yeah, he did. And Ciarán Mulhern has done well at 11. How important is the league, Desi, for Galway, given how they exited maybe the championship last year?
Well, I thought you were going to say about Kerry, but no, like I'm just thinking of Kerry, Jack O'Connor.
Well, that's the next
he literally
question,
doesn't care. I think 5 of the starting team against Donegal played in July's All-Ireland final. So that gives you a sense that Kerry aren't too pushed. They'll just tip away, and it's a luxury for Jack O'Connor. It doesn't make a difference how they get on, but obviously they want to stay in Division 1. But yeah, it is important for Galway. Like, that was a massive win because you don't want to get dragged into a relegation battle. So if you think about it, if they lost to Armagh last week or 2 weekends ago, they were heading down to play Kerry, the All-Ireland champion, current All-Ireland champion. So it'd be another massive task for them. It would have been 3 defeats in a row. It's not. They bet Armagh. They're going down to Kerry. And to be honest, the way Kerry are approaching the league, you don't really know what sort of side they'll have out. They will have quality. Naturally, of course, they'll have quality. But at the same time, I don't think Galway will fare them as much going down playing them this time of the year, especially when Shane Walsh came in, Matty Tierney came in, and McDade all made a massive impact off the bench last day. So I would imagine them players are all going to start and give Galway they can bolster the team heading down to Tralee.
I suppose we have to see what team Kerry play, but it's interesting with Kerry. They seem to pursue the league in a different way to other teams. Like last year, they finished the league unusually strongly, whereas teams in Ulster, Donegal, for instance, ease off towards the end of the league. Kerry seem to have more scope to attack the later stages of the league, possibly because their provincial championship is less onerous. You know?
Yeah, but doesn't Jack O'Connor have that great record, though, winning league titles and then going on to win the championship?
Yeah, I think you're only measured in championships down in Kerry, to be fair. But yeah, it is. There's an alignment there with Jack O'Connor's success in the league. Obviously, is kicked on. I think as soon as the league finishes, they head away somewhere like Portugal or somewhere like that for a training camp and really focus and dial in for the championship. So I do. It looks as if just the way the landscape is, like Kerry are very much coming to the fore with the quality of players that they have. And after winning the All-Ireland, I think Jack O'Connor hasn't done back-to-back. I think that's certainly something that he might be eyeing up as well.
Yeah.
He's 5 doubles, but I mean, I think last year they kind of wound up in the league by accident almost. They wound up winning by accident, but yeah. He hasn't done back-to-back, but I think Pat O'Shea completed the second leg of the last back.
0-6 and 0-7, wasn't it? Yeah,
right.
Back then. But they definitely have eyes on it. Desi, where do you think Kerry maybe need to unearth a player or two, or do they need to unearth a player or two to be in the shake-up again in an All-Ireland final maybe later in the year?
Yeah, well, obviously it's easy look at the forwards. Offensively, they've got the best forwards, and midfield. I think O'Connor has really answered the call into midfield. He certainly has bolstered that position. But I would certainly feel that defensively, have they got enough tight man markers. And that's certainly an area you could look at. If you were to try pick one area, I'd say a couple of defenders. Jack O'Connor wouldn't mind finding a few tough defenders, like, you know, you like your Tomas or Mark O'Shea, these type of lads, Aidan O'Mahony, a few dogs in there that can kind of show a few corner forwards a hard time.
Yeah, you're saying dogs there in a complimentary fashion. Would they be suited to the man-on-man marking, wouldn't they?
Yeah, no, to be fair, I remember marking Thomas Sullivan, Mike McCarthy, and they were great footballers on the ball, but equally they were the type of defenders like that were ruthless. Like if they got an opportunity to get a good shoulder in or a good bit of physical contact in, they took that, and they're clever. They know how to play the game. They know how to close players down as well. But certainly, I just think if you were to pick an area, like, I'm not saying there's weaknesses, I'm saying that and one area you think that they could expand and get a couple of players in, I think defensively, certainly there's a bit of scope there for a few quality defenders.
Yeah, and the league worked to good effect for them last year too, and I think a couple of midfielders as well when they were stretched earlier on in the campaign last year.
Yeah, Joe Conor came through in last year's league, I think. Maybe
played a lot of football early on in the year. Yeah,
football, yeah, they were stretched, but as I said, I mean they were in danger of going down at one point, and there was sort of fears for them after that loss in Castlebar last year, and a bit of concern. You heard a lot of. I happened to be down in Mayo, not for that game, but just that weekend, and there was a lot of negativity towards O'Connor at that point among the Kerry fans around Westport. You were hearing, there was a sense that he'd be gone after this year and no harm either, was the kind of sense you were getting. And
just saying, Kerry supporters giving out the manager.
Yeah, it wouldn't be anything new, but I mean, it was. They picked up then towards the end of the league. They just put a spurt on to ensure they didn't get relegated, and then they sort of wound up in the league final by a kind of random generator process, and they wound up beating Mayo, and then the championship panned out the way it did, and O'Connor's still here.
Yeah, he certainly is, and chasing after that second All-Ireland in a row. That's Kerry Galway. That's the live game on RTÉ2 television this Saturday evening. Elsewhere then, lads, I mean, it's early in the day, Desi, I suppose, to be talking about relegation and league finals and stuff like that, but Dublin Monaghan already has the look of a game that both teams really can't afford to lose.
Yeah, to be fair to Gabriel Brannigan, he came out after the Roscommon result and just basically said, look, I'm dealing with an awful lot of injuries. There's Sigersons, there's all sorts of things. There's retirements. It's extremely difficult. And not that he's making excuses, but certainly Monaghan are down a lot of bodies. And the reality is in Division 1, if you're down bodies, you're gonna feel it. And Monaghan, we give them a lot of credit for how well they performed the league, but you just be worried about them this year that there's just too many players missing. But equally, Dublin, it's interesting. They still have an awful lot of quality. People are quick to dismiss them. They played the two best teams in the division. They played Mayo and they played Donegal. They were unlucky maybe in certain respect with Mayo that McMahon got sent off when he did, because that changed the whole landscape of the game. But then equally, it's intriguing because Ger Brennan coming out in his after-match comments is after the whole world of GA is wondering, who's he going to drop? Who is he going to drop? And just if he's dropping Brian Howard or any of them good players, we'll take them in Westmeath. We're checking out grannies and birth certs to see if he wants to get rid of a few, we'll take them down here in Westmeath.
Yeah, it's not too far of a spin either. What did you make of those comments from Ger Brennan, Desi? Obviously, you've been a manager in the not too distant past. They can probably go one or two ways, can't they?
No, to be honest, I think it's a playbook from Pat Gilroy, who we'd be very familiar with. I think 2011-12 wasn't it? Pat came in to Dublin and he rattled cages early doors. He brought a couple of the senior players into a room. He dropped them. And the reality is, it feels a little bit like that again. And Pat Gilroy went on to get the success, and Dublin then started motoring again and won all the All-Irelands. So it has a little bit of a feeling like that. The reality is, if you've 5, 6, 7 All-Ireland medals in your back pocket, the motivation to win another one certainly would drop or diminish a little bit. So he's trying to re-energise them, re-motivate them. And certainly, if you're the likes of Kieran Kilkenny, Bugler, Howard, just these players, Scully, these players are absolutely incredible servants. So, I don't think there's any fear they're going to get dropped, to be honest, personally. I just think he's trying to motivate them that little bit more, that Dublin have probably come back to the pack a little bit and they need to get focused and you get a strong squad and you start winning games.
Yeah, I think Brian Howard was one of the players taken off in Castlebar.
He was,
early doors.
You'd imagine there must be a sort of motivation issue. I mean, we've seen that in a sense, it's the kind of price of success, really. I mean, we've seen Fenton, McCaffrey, players who otherwise might still be there, have retired earlier than they might have in other circumstances if they hadn't as many All-Ireland medals there. There's also a sense that Dublin they seem to be quite slow in adjusting to the rules. You know, they certainly were last year. They were very slow on 2-pointers. There's almost a sense, I don't know, you could build this narrative that, you know, Jim Gavin being so prominent in the rules committee, and obviously he wasn't the only one there, that there's a poacher turned gamekeeper element to it, that as a legislator he was almost legislating against himself as a manager, and you know, all the tools that Dublin used to control games were neutralised. You know, they were the ones they set out to neutralise. And when you've experienced players, they're very ingrained habits that you're dealing with, and sort of, you know, we're seeing they haven't really been able to adjust to the new conditions, I think, some of the more senior players there.
Yeah, Monaghan were actually one of the teams that struck me last year that had adjusted to the new rules quite quickly, and Croke Park suited them the couple of times that I saw them there last year.
I just think, lads, that in fairness to Gabriel Brennan, he's trying to assemble a squad, but like if you're missing Carol O'Connell, the Darren Hughes, O'Toole, Wiley, Lavelle, like players of real quality, if you're missing that, I do think that Monaghan, as well as that, the Scottstown players, whether they're going to be available. And I know Beggan played against Roscommon, but at the same time, I just think that there's the turnover players. I think Monaghan would be a lot ahead in terms of preparation, ahead of where they are this year. And I just think the turnover players and the landscape. I think Dublin as well, to be fair to Dublin, lads, you've a lot of players coming in and getting trialled. Robert Shaw, Nathan Doran, Owen Kennedy, all coming in to play games, getting their debuts. And it's not easy, be fluid or, you know, early in the league, in January, in February, this time of the year, to perform at a high level. There is going to be mistakes. There's pressure on performances already in Dublin that if you're not performing, that you might get your place. I think Ger Brennan mentioned 40 or 50 of a panel that he's going to cut down as well. So I just think where Dublin are at, they're not as bad as people are predicting. I think they have still the quality of players that you need, but it's certainly a bit of a turnover. There's a bit of upheaval with the amount of players that they're trying to get into the side and see what the quality is. So it is a turbulent enough time for Dublin in terms of winning matches, but at the same time, I just think there will be a good bit ahead of Monaghan at the weekend.
Yeah, and it's very early days for Ger Brennan as well in his manager. One of the games that Monaghan impressed in last year particularly was that league final against Roscommon in Croke Park in Division 2. The Rossies play Armagh this weekend. Just wondering, are Roscommon going a little bit under the radar? I thought they were very impressive against Monaghan the last day in Hyde Park.
Yeah, I mean, it was surprising, and even the first day against Kerry, I mean, they almost had that game won. Yeah, because they were kind of written off at the outset. It was seen that Roscommon and Monaghan would be the two most likely teams to go down, and even I think in most assessments beforehand, Roscommon were seen as even more likely than Monaghan to go down until the extent of Monaghan's absences became clear, at least. Particularly in the absence of the Bridges players as well. It's been a very impressive start. There's possibly an element of new manager bounce down there. Last year they had a very odd year in 2025, because usually in a year when you get promoted to Division 1, that'd be classified as a good year, but it ended up derailing, really. I mean, they were quite lucky really to get promoted. In the end, I think it was Cavan missing a 2-point shot in the last minute got them up, and then they wound up winning 2 of their last 10 matches last year, and one of them was against London. So that combined with the absence of the Bridges players would have led you to think they'd struggle, but it's been a real bounce, and there seems to be a freshness that's come with the new management team there, and yeah, they're looking good now.
Roscommon still have a lot of good players when you look at their panel. Yeah. Like Enda Smith is obviously one of the top players in the country in that sort of role that he plays, but like Diarmuid Murtagh would look very sharp. Very impressed with Dara Heenan as well at wing forward, real strong runner. Desi, like they still have a very good panel to pick from.
Yeah, look, to be honest, certainly the favourites to go down would have been Monaghan and Roscommon, and with the new manager, Mark Dowd, coming in, there was a couple of retirements straight away, which was a worry. But in fairness to Mark, he got Jason Sherlock involved. I was working with Jason as well, but like Jason obviously has all the experience coming from winning the All-Irelands with Dublin. So Mark Dowd has complemented himself with a high-level coach in there as well that knows the scene, knows Division 1. And in fairness, the one thing that they will do, Roscommon, they'll always score. Like Dara Craig has been exceptional. Enda Smith had probably, after he got his All-Star, his level has kind of dipped a little bit in terms of performance. And I think when he is playing well, Roscommon really motor well. And another guy that's an extremely talented player is Diarmuid Murtagh in terms of the 2-pointers and kicking points from distance. And equally, he's just very effective and efficient with the ball in his hand. He doesn't give much away, doesn't miss much, and generally makes good decisions. So like it's always good if you have good forwards, because you've always got a chance to win matches with the quality players that they have. But then they're playing Armagh, and I'd say Armagh will be a little aggrieved over losing that match to Galway. And I got the sense from Kieran McGeeney after the match that he wasn't too impressed with how the whole thing played out, because for large periods of that game, I thought Armagh were incredible, like really living up to the hype. But to be frustrated they lost it. So they might be coming down with a little extra motivation to win that match in the Hyde at the weekend.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought Armagh were really impressive against Galway that night.
They created chances at will. Yeah, the way they were able to cut through defences and created so many goal chances or half goal chances. I know there's obviously been a lot of commentary about the amount they're fisting over. Even they scored, I think, 127 against Monaghan without the requirement of a 2-pointer.
And 125 from play, I think, in that match, if memory serves.
And they cut through them at will and were turning down goal chances, I believe, in that game. I didn't actually see that game, but so it's an incredible haul they're racking up just with single points,
and doing it with quite a few players absent as well, lads. Yeah. I mean, they are down quite a few bodies if you look at the team from the All-Ireland back only less than 2 years ago.
Yeah, the funny thing about I just actually think with the game, the one thing that impresses me most about Armagh is their running power. Like, it seems as if the whole team are equally athletic and equally are, in terms of fitness, they're getting up and down the pitch. They're great. Like, they are literally cutting holes through teams and fisting the ball over the bar. And another factor that I think that might help them is the pitch in the Hyde is incredible. It used to be a nice pitch, but it's one of these dry, prunty pitches, which top of the ground kind of stuff. And I just think it'll favour them a little bit, the quality of pitch down there in the Hyde in terms of being able to cover the ground. So it'll actually be very interesting to see where Roscommon are at based on this game, because if they put in another performance, it'll tell us a lot about where they're at in terms of staying up in Division 1.
Yeah. On the great fist passing debate, I wonder, McGeeney is probably going to be sick of answering questions about that if it comes up. But it was interesting, his comments. I saw to Colin Parkinson on the smaller fish. He said he leaves it open to the players if they want to take the shot or they want to fist it over or go for the goal. But he did begin that contribution by noting that I think Armagh wouldn't have lost a game in the last 3 years if they'd taken the point rather than going for goal options. I don't know if that was true of the Kerry game last year, because they lost that well enough. But this is the statistic he cited. So that seems to me that he's, the players could divine his attitude just from that comment. I think he might not be a silent observer in this debate. I don't know what you think.
What I think is that he was really annoyed with the referee and he blamed him for losing the game. So he was frustrated. And then when someone asked him a question about the hand passes, it didn't go down well either. And the one thing, like with these managers now, even like Porrick Joyce getting the win, you have Kieran McGeeney, Jim McGuinness, they're incredible managers. But they're trying to protect their team as much as they can. They're trying to defend the team as much as they can. They're so loyal to their players. They get frustrated, irked a little bit when people question players making decisions. And to be honest, when you invest so much into it, I think it's hard sometimes to be patient with journalists.
Did you have any run-ins with them?
There's definitely a few you try to avoid. It's just the way it is. It's just because you're so invested in it, and then if somebody says something about a player, and what's going on in the background, the effort that you put in, the sacrifices they're making off the pitch, and the Monday to Saturday before the game comes up, I do think you can get a little bit frustrated by some of the commentary, and that's only natural. But because they're amateur players as well, I think GA managers are extremely protective of looking after the interests of the players.
You're back on side with journalists now, though, Desi, aren't you? You're back over to the dark side.
Gone to the other side of the fence again.
The other game then in Division 1, lads, Donegal-Mayo saw a newspaper report about this, that the crowd might be an issue. So many people looking for tickets for this. I think it's in O'Donnell Park in Letterkenny. That's reflective probably of the resurgence in Mayo, where Andy Moran has started really well, Conor.
Yeah, well, it's a reflection of the two sets of supporters. I still remember the crowds around Dublin for the 2025 All-Ireland final. It was unlike anything else. But there seems to be a buzz returning there. There was apathy seemed to have set in around the time of the group stage last year, and there was a sort of doom and gloom and pessimism around. But yeah, Moran, he seems to have re-energised things down there. There's a buoyancy, and they've started the league really well. They found a couple of players too. Ger Brennan has emerged. He scored goals in both games. Cian Michaelo, I think, is involved in the Sigerson today.
Yeah, they have I think 11 Mayo players on the UL squad altogether.
Yeah, although I think Michael might be the only one who's really featured in the league so far. I know Frank Irwin, I don't think has played so far in the league. But yeah, they look reinvigorated, playing more of a style of football you would have associated with Mayo back in their heady days, which is probably more aligned to the way the game has gone, a more high octane type of pressing game. And it seems to suit them. They found new players, but he's also brought back some of the older players, and there seems to be the core of the team will remain the team that has been around for a long time. It looks like for this year, anyway.
And they've hit quite a few 2-pointers as well. Desi, what have you made of Mayo so far?
I was impressed to watch them against Galway, but it's easy for Andy at the minute, because when you're winning matches, everything is good. It's when you lose a match, the questions start to come. But at the minute, his share price is up, the mood is good, people are talking about them, he's smiling, he's giving his interviews after the game, everything seems really positive. But when the clouds come and you lose a game in Mayo, it can be a very tough place to be as well, and that will come. That's just part and parcel of it. But Ryan O'Donoghue's having a massive impact on. He's playing in centre forward there. He was at the tangle with Sean McMahon as well. He's a tenacious player. He gets stuck into everything, but he's out of centre forward. I think he's controlling a lot of the games. He's getting a lot of points, 2-pointers as well, and he's doing really well. Jack Carney beside him, Paddy Durkin's back into the team. So certainly there is a great energy with Mayo at the minute, and that's to be expected. But equally going up there to Jim McGuinness, it's fascinating, to be honest, just watching the Donegal, the style of play, the way it's evolved. People always felt it was just Jim McGuinness with the handbrake up. But I really think it's Jim McGuinness. Last year up to the All-Ireland final, they were absolutely incredible. The running power from all over the pitch, the way they were playing, the style, the scores, the 2-pointers, they were a joy to watch. And I think the All-Ireland final performance was probably a bit frustrating for Jim. But then this year again, it's the high press. It's, again, the runners coming from everywhere, then holding on to Michael Murphy, introducing them. So I'm always fascinated because what Jim McGuinness brings to it, because if you look at it from a manager's perspective, he's always trying to push the needle a little bit more and more and more. So he's a fascinating character as well in the GA.
Yeah, just on that, Desi, and you were in the managerial scene very recently. From a lot of talk about Donegal's tactics defensively in the All-Ireland final last year, there seems to be a bit of a change this year. What have you made of that?
Yeah, he referenced it, the man-on-man. I think someone pointed out that you were man-on-man against Dublin in the first day, and he kind of wasn't too happy, because I suppose the reference was you dropped off on Clifford and Paddy in the All-Ireland final, and certainly Paddy was up on 60-70 touches in the All-Ireland final, and he ran the show effectively. And look, when you sit back and analyse the game, I just think they were probably trying to protect the influence of David inside, with a man kind of covering a little bit and allowing Paddy to get onto the ball. But in the cold light of day, it just appeared that it didn't work out. And obviously Jim and the boys on the sideline were aware of it, but they didn't counteract it enough to affect the game at the time. So that was the frustration. But certainly the one thing Jim does is he evolves, he changes, he adapts. And I just think that when you look at his teams, he is trying to innovate as much as he possibly can, getting ready for the All-Ireland Series and Championship.
Yeah, so that's Division 1. Let's get on to Division 2, because there's a lot of tasty games in there this weekend as well. We've got Meath against Louth, Tyrone, Cavan, Kildare, Derry and Offaly, Cork this weekend as well. I suppose Meath Louth, the repeat of the Leinster final from last year. Fortunes of both counties have probably changed since then a little bit. Meath look to be in really good shape. Yeah, Meath look pretty buoyant now at the minute. You did wonder whether there'd be a second season syndrome there after last year. Their revival last year was
It was remarkable. It was almost like I think it was almost like when a long dead soap villain comes back to life abruptly 20 years later. You know, I mean, that was what it was. Dirty Den from EastEnders. Maybe that's what me there. But yeah, they've built on that this year. It looks like it's no flash in the pan. It looks like it's made to last. That win over Derry was a real statement in the opening weekend, because people would have pegged them as, initially you would have said maybe it was a 3-horse race, or most people would have perceived it between Derry, Meath and Tyrone for the promotion spot. So when Meath beat Derry, that was a big shout. Now that it's become more complicated because Cork looked to be motoring well, and then you've Kildare, who we don't know where Kildare's ceiling is yet. It could be very high if they get a bit of momentum. So it's become very interesting, Division 2. Louth, after winning Leinster, they seemed to, I suspect motivation was diminished somewhat. You know, the season was a success after that. And the league this year has started with 1 win, 1 loss. It's very early days, but Cork, a team who they had a decent record against in the league, to lose that, they're probably looking to, I think, staying up at all and remaining in the Sam Maguire will be a success for Louth this year.
Desi, you've experience of making that breakthrough in Leinster and then going at it again the following year. What's it like? What's it like coming back off that huge high?
It's extremely difficult, and no matter what people say about, you need to knuckle down next year, the following year, like the motivation was certainly just diminished in Westmeath anyway. When we won that, it was the holy grail, and we lived off it for the winter then. And then when the next year's division came around, I just thought we were struggling, and the players dropped a little bit of percentages, and a couple of players left the squad at the time. And I too think is with Louth as well, the likes of a Tommy Dernan has been instrumental for Louth around the middle there. If you think of the Leinster final, he kind of controlled that for 15 or 20 minutes in the second half, and Louth got the foothold in the game. He's gone obviously this year. So yeah, it's extremely difficult for Louth to keep their feet on the ground. And they got a win against Offaly. And that was a close enough game. Like Samuel Wright stepped up and he got a goal, and it was kind of a turnover, ended up in the back of net, and they needed to get that to win the game. So I think Louth have dropped off a little bit in terms of where they were last year. But Derry was a massive win for them again in Celtic Park against Tyrone. I think that was the sense of relief after that game was incredible. I listened to an interview with Conor Glass, and it had been so long since they'd won, that even players of their quality, it affects them. Inter-county football is all to do with confidence. And when you don't have confidence playing inter-county football, and as a group, let's say the Derry players, they just seem to be devoid of it for so long, that I think a win against Tyrone will give them great belief and confidence. And then they're heading to St. Connell's Park. And as mentioned, Kildare have been doing well with Brian Flanagan, but have they done enough? This is an experienced enough Derry team now after getting a win. I think the monkeys off the back. I think they can win in Newbridge as well. Offaly are struggling. I don't see them beating Cork. And I feel really sorry for a man, Dermot McCabe. He was manager of Westmeath, and they lost 4 or 5 games by a point. Even games in injury time. I think there was one against Meath where the hooter went and still lost the game. And then I just feel for him against Cavan, or against Meath last 2 weekends ago. They were beaten Meath coming right down to the end of it, and a brilliant score from Meath gave them the win, a 2-pointer. So he seems to be a very unlucky manager at the minute. So I hope he gets the win soon, but it'll be certainly difficult against Tyrone.
Yeah, and Stephen Sherlock 2-pointer
same against Cork. I was just going to say,
the first weekend. Yeah, yes. I mean, Cavan haven't beaten Tyrone since the Falklands War or whenever. So it's going to be very difficult. I mean, it's hard. Tyrone struggled against Derry. I mean, I watched that game, and Derry were completely on top in the third quarter, and only their wastefulness kept the game tight. And then Tyrone put a spurt on late on, and then they missed chances themselves to level the game. But they certainly didn't deserve anything out of that game.
Well, Tyrone have no room for manoeuvre, really, lads, do they? Yeah. Because they drew Kildare first time out as well.
Yeah, there seems to be a bit of a Malachy. They're just not performing, I think, where they'd like to be performing, or the consistency that they need. They have certainly quality players. They've an All-Ireland medal, a lot of them a few years ago. The players are there, but the concern and part of it is the performance level isn't there, the consistency isn't there. And Malachy O'Rourke will be looking for winning. if you were to think Cavan to beat Tyrone, that throws Tyrone under a lot of pressure to get a couple of wins to survive Division 2. And the reality, lads, in Division 2 is it's mega pressure, because the two teams going down are out of the All-Ireland Series, looking like they'll be out of the All-Ireland Series this year, because the way the provincials are working out, it's very evenly balanced, that there'll be no, let's say, Division 3 or 4 team coming into the provincial finals. That's the way it's looking anyway.
Well, let's see how it all pans out. But Division 2 is going to be really, really tight. And just before we finish, Desi, possibly the game of the weekend, or certainly the potential to be the game of the weekend, is your own county, Westmeath, against Down. Yeah. I suppose both of those teams have been touted as promotion contenders, or probably nearly promotion certainties in that division. If Westmeath win there, they'll be in a very good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a massive match. And to be fair, with Down and Westmeath in the last couple of years, we've been very close to each other. We've played each other numerous times. League final, we played them up there the best by a point. We played them in Mullingar, we drew with them. There's never more than a kick of a ball in it. Westmeath have had 2 great wins, Clare and Sligo. But like this, it's in Park Esler, and Park Esler is a tough venue to go to get a win. Conor Lafferty's team were doing extremely well last summer. I don't know, are they playing as well as they were? It's still early in the league, but I don't think their form has been as good this time around. But equally, whoever wins this game, you could nearly be assured of getting promoted. So it's a massive match for either team. And that's not being disrespectful to Wexford. I just think whoever wins between Down and Westmeath, one of them is guaranteed to go up. And I think one of them then, or possibly, I do think, and I said this already, I do think the two teams that come up from Division 3 this year have a great chance, or Division 3, have a great chance then of playing the All-Ireland Series this year.
And Downer back from the Algarve, I believe, as well.
That's right. They had a training camp, didn't they?
It may be the first time, I think, that 2 Division 3 teams are going to likely get in the Sam Maguire. We don't know that yet.
Kildare are Tailteann
because
Cup
the Tailteann Cup winners, they're looking good, Kildare, to stay.
Yeah, so Kildare, you would imagine, the way they're performing at the minute, will hold on in Division 2. So that should free up. And the only other way is obviously your provincial finals, but it just doesn't look the way the provincials are working out this year, that there's a team for Division 3 or 4 that will get up there.
Now, the last time Cork and Kerry avoided each other in Munster, I think Clare beat Cork, and it sent Meath to the Tailteann. So there can be complications there, but yeah. Also, interestingly, on Division 3, the last the likelihood is that the 2 teams who came up could stay up, which is the first time for a while. I mean, Wexford and Limerick both look pretty strong, and Laois and Fermanagh are struggling. So.
Yeah, and Limerick pushed down close, I think, didn't they, in their last match as well? So Limerick have certainly done really well and continued on their good form from last summer. But lads, thanks a million. For now, just a reminder to please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back again next week with our review programme on Monday. But for now, thanks a million.
Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow?